Ecces ardos magnos qui endeibus suis plasuit Deo ideo iure orando fecit illum Dominum crescerentem plebam suam benedictam homiam Dominum Dei et sanctamentum suam confirmavit super capite ideo iure orando fecit illum Dominos crescere in plebam suam. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto. Ideo iure orando fecit illum Dominum crescerentem plebam suam. Hosanna Filio David, benedictus qui venit in de Domine, Domine Rex Israel. Hosanna Filio David. 3 tickets for my wife's son, for the newest for the newest A24 produced, genre-defining, trope-subverting, atmospheric, dark and eerie, emotionally draining, gut-wrenching,
heavy craft by post-horror
tour with an art house edge, dread-inducing, suspense-building with strong character development and gradual feeling of escalation, bone-chilling slow burn with say more with less approach, and soul-shaking, blood-curdling, skin-crawling, and nerve-wracking exercise in persistently looming dread, where tension and anxiety permeates every frame as movie reaches its nail-biting, jaw-clenching, and paranoia-inducing final climax, free of any cheap gore, cartoonish CGI, or infantile jump scares. Horror film, please. You know, antlions are a really good sign of soil health here in the drier parts of Florida. And what's crazy about Merritt Island, where I live, is that it's actually a desert island. That it is only built up into a place with space, depth, and abundance of nature due to all the people planting oak trees and propagating mangroves and tending the land. Because the reason why NASA is here is because we have a particular confluence of weather systems, of which it is a very peaceful, not rainy part of Florida. Low thunderstorms compared to the rest of Florida. Low rain compared to the rest of Florida. So it's very windy. It's a desert island. Our wind is more consistent though, so it's a good early place to launch. It still is a good place to launch. This is exactly why SpaceX has hijacked all the work that NASA has done, innovated next to nothing, and ate their lunch. And you know what? Hey man, that's the way things go. You know, it may be worse for everybody, but that's the way things go if we let it. Anyways, if you can see how many genuinely good people coalesced around Trump recently, you would understand why I continue to defend him. I blame almost everything going wrong on the godless cretin Elon Musk. And I was talking to somebody at my church about this exact thing, and he thinks that Elon Musk is a genuine genius inventor, and he seems to think that the Hyperloop ever went anywhere when it didn't. And I love the guy, right? He's a lovable old man, very intelligent, full of good stories. he's just an all in all good person. And he seems to think that the concept of merging computers and humans is something that we eventually have to do. And it's not. And if it's done by a private company, anyways, it's like that's not anything to say for what the country in general will allow. See, mRNA cancer vaccines are specifically designed for individuals, right? So Cuba is the first people to come up with this. You handcraft it to somebody's specific genome, and then you can inoculate them towards a specific type of cancer. Now, of course, there's various side effects depending on, like anything has side effects depending on how you run the chemistry. But it's kind of similar to the fact that regular people aren't getting cancer vaccines. That's not going to happen. And if it did, that would mean a drastic, complete 180 change and massive buildup of our public healthcare system. At the moment, it specializes in making people sick, saying that it's innovating health. All the innovations go into vaults. What people are stuck with, what normal people are stuck with, is dilapidated and disgusting. So, people must understand what a private company is not only entitled but like encouraged and almost inherent to do, which is to privatize any innovation, to copyright things, to keep the price tag as high as possible, gouge as much as possible. A lot of the inflation these days is just greed. It's genuinely like people ran a gigantic bank run on things so that and some people are charging less and some people are continuing to keep the prices up. But, not a lot of our prices are due to a combination of inflation, but also just people gouging, right? So got to keep that in mind. And back to the guy at church, is he probably took the poison pill, right? Of thinking that, well, I could be like Moses. I might not live to see immortality through a singularity, but I'd like other people to. It's not. I mean, it's going. If it's, I guarantee you. I give you my word that the first thing an Elon Musk Neuralink that is synthesized fully to a human brain will do is hijack their consciousness to allow, well, maybe not their consciousness, but hijack their bodily autonomy and potentially shock them until they comply, which is actually a totalitarian methodology behind forcing people into slavery. That you see this in a lot of totalitarian governments, is that you torture somebody until they comply. You could torture somebody with brain chemistry until they comply, and then they become your servitor. And they're essentially they're lobotomized in will, but in essence, all of their intuition, all of their emotion is now used as a circuit for the real half of the processing. So you have computer processing, which is busting everything into graphs and polygons, numbers and data and code, lambda calculus, and variety of other algorithms. But reality, as you know, is an echoing, like an atom looks a lot like a planet, right? Yet the scales are so wickedly off on that. However, we're still made up of atoms, and that's why it's stardust. Yeah, so what? But I think it's far more fascinating to recognize that we're made up of tiny little orbs, and that we're also living on a gigantic orb, and everything is a variation of orb if you think about it elementally. Elementary, my dear Watson. So that's the thing. That's as simple as it is. I didn't tell it to his face. I just try and, keep, like, when it comes to anybody saying things that is blatantly wrong and it's wrong, don't pedant. Don't mouth off to them. Just try and steer things in a more positive direction. So we end up talking about history. We ended up talking about Galicia, Volhynia. We ended up talking about Poland and Ukraine and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And all sorts of fun stuff, right? Like, there's nothing conventionally unattractive about Asian women, right? But their expressions are awful, right? And that's a big thing that I see with Musk is like his expressions are really awful. And it's an unattractive thing at a baseline. So like you can vaporware yourself to investment all day. It doesn't mean like a lot of people will inherently dislike you based on how you look. And you combine that with behavior of running to people's president, going, "Daddy, Daddy, they hurt me," something nobody else does. That will make people genuinely hate you. Not like dislike, like, disgust sensitivities flaring when I see your laminated, hair plugged face that had jaw surgery to widen your jaw and it looks really bad. That's ad hominem. But the cherry picking the things that he actually does that end up in the media, which is something that like Fox News will completely leave out because they want money. It's that simple. And other media like left-wing media will cherry pick and present forever. And I've already seen left-wing media lie about Musk, right? So don't get it twisted. Like there are bad people on both sides of this issue. But the fact of the matter is the guy needs to, if he wants to pull up out of this like serious spiral that he's in right now, unless he has some sort of a plan to loot the treasury genuinely and steal gold and genuinely and like replace genuine American money with Bitcoin, then he's worthy of contempt. But if he is genuine, he needs to stop acting like a little cretin. Sorry, it's just true. So back on to Asian women, right? Nothing conventionally unattractive about Asian women. Their expressions are terrible, though. Awful. And it really baffles me because the Far East expressed early spiritual wholeness and subsequent high aptitude until communism brought about the century of humiliation. We've all learned from that in retrospect. Unless you live your life in a coffee corner shop, right? Which is not to throw shade on people who are just reading for the sake of reading. I've known Marxists, I've been inspired by Marxists who also have a religious outlook on things. But if you're like a militant atheist communist, you are my enemy. I'm not talking to you, just straight up. It's simple. It's like if you're like an outright Nazi and you believe in anthroposophy race science, and your race science is deeply, deeply flawed, and it's very fantastical, and it's orientated based on your emotions as opposed to real pragmatic strengths and weaknesses that various races have, then you're probably my enemy. Very, very, very likely. Like if you can literally, if you can condemn an entire race of people, which is what the dumber Nazis do, you are my enemy. The smarter Nazis, as I described, there's smarter Marxists, there's high aura Marxists, there's high aura Nazis. And the high aura Nazis are the ones that believe in things like Israel because they believe, isn't that ironic? But it's true. It's because they believe that every single race belongs in a particular place where their ancestors come from, where the bone dust of their ancestors makes up the like deep layers of soil. That's essentially what the high aura Nazis believe. I don't necessarily agree with that. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle once the British Empire has done what it's done. Once the Dutch East Indies Trading Company has done what it's done. You cannot put that back in the bottle. And who even knows if you could have put that back in the bottle after the Indo-European diaspora, right? So there's English words, there's Danish words, there's Dutch words, there's French words, there's Spanish words, there's Roman words, there's Swedish words, and there's Norse words. There's Lithuanian and Polish words, and they're cognate with Indian words, and it's genuinely lined up. And I'm sorry, guys, if you think that, you know, we gave it to them. No, it came from India. And this goes back to the theory that I've espoused many, many times, is the fact that the wheel was invented in India like 30,000 years ago. The wagoneering culture, which is a proto-Romanian culture, whether Romanians have the wagons and stuff like that, are the proto-Indo-European culture. The proto-Indo-European culture and the early Indo-European culture would live out of their wagons as they traversed in the Eurasian steppe, which is like a 3-climate contiguous zone where horses and other like people can travel. So, and then down through there you get Akkadian. Through there you get a little bit of Caucasian / Indo-Iranian? Yeah, Indo-Iranian. But the whole Aryan thing, Aryan quite literally and always has translated to the peripheries of India, outside of where Islam has taken over. So there's Coromandel in the south, there's Deccan in the north, there's West Aryan in Pakistan, and then there's East Aryan in Bengal. Right, and it's complicated because Islam has basically taken over, pushed deep into India's stuff, and that's why they hate them so much. And basically the only place with Indian culture, with Sanskrit and Hinduism left, was in Vijayanagar and Orissa, and those southern areas in the Deccan area, or excuse me, not below the Deccan Plateau, south of the Deccan Plateau in the Coromandel region. I'm sure there are different names for the area, but that's one of the names for the super region. Anyways, as I said, horses, wagons, over into Europe, technology. Big thing that the Druids knew on top of animal husbandry and plant culturing is weather patterns, which is something, if you spend a lot of time, like I was taught from a close friend, how to basically read weather patterns in the sky, which works for a period of time. So I don't even, like, I could be completely without technology and I can have like a day in advance. You know, everybody remembers the Red Sky at Night, Sailor's Delight. I actually think that's more for like specific regions around Britain. Personally, I don't think that actually applies to a lot of places in America, but it might apply to the Northeast. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let's bring down the let's finish up my thought and then bring down the aura. We have the prettiest women, right? Europeans have the prettiest women. There's no argument about that. Nobody has any argument about that. Gene stealers can't argue with that, otherwise they wouldn't be stealing our genes. Indian guys, come on. Like, we all see what happens online. We all see how they fawn and drool. One thing is, like, the Chinese have very good self-control. But the Japanese, with anime, you see it, they love our women, man. And it's just like, gosh, it's probably the singular reason why Europeans are so heavy on defense and war structure through defense, and that eventually ends up getting manipulated out from under them to launch crusades against each other, is the fact that our women are so beautiful, right? That's the main reason why you'd want to make sure that you're well guarded, at least in the ancient world, before, like, mindless, senseless spilling your gifts of nature all over the ground while you reap them out and you rip out the roots and prevent them from ever restoring themselves. This weird mindset that people have recently, which you don't really know how far it goes back. I mean, Middle East used to be green 50,000 years ago, so where does it come from? Who knows, man? I don't know what a Phoenician is, dog. The Arabs and the Jewish people, they don't have a related ancient bloodline or anything, and it's not like Solomon, completely dead. Muhammad bin Salman? I don't know. Anyways, let's bring down the aura. I listened to an entire 2-hour AI-generated Warhammer lore scripting video, and it started repeating itself, like, at unpredictable intervals, more and more as the video went on. And this is ultimately what I'm talking about. Is that person, in the beginning of the video, stated that he's working on getting a new voice set up, trained off of his individual voice, so he's working with these tools, and yet still, and he doesn't come out with like 10 videos a day. He comes out with, from I went and looked, comes out with a video every like 3 or 4 days, which is still a very, very fast to put a 2-hour video together. But it doesn't matter if half of your video is slop that's repeating itself, like one of those live stream, watch South Park on YouTube channels that only plays like, or Family Guy that only plays like, 2 episodes looped together for 8 hours. Oh well, that's what I'm talking about, and I don't really need to stress a lot of these things about. If you know. If you want to be hopeful, but placing your faith in man is a surefire way of being disappointed. That's the reason why we took the Pantheon, crushed it up, we collapsed it and pressured it into a diamond, and that diamond was the Philosopher's Stone, and the Philosopher's Stone is Jesus Christ. Some real ass shit right there. Pardon my French. Go study Jung. Go study Jung to find out how Freud completely and utterly took a beautiful potential for humanity and crushed it into the dirt by being a lying, incestuous, pedophile apologist. POS. I mean, I already cursed, so I might as well, but hey, I'm working on it. I'm working on it! Oh. Like, is the F-69 being advertised with CGI? If so, don't get your hopes up until it materializes. Don't hold your breath. That it never will. Iboga has one of the most complex chemical structures of any chemical that synchronizes with our brain. It is impossible to synthesize. It comes from Gabon, where it's very likely the garden humans fell from flourished some time ago. And it's fascinating because it cures all addictions. I'm not joking about this. It legitimately cures all addictions: smoking, alcoholism, severe drug addiction, heroin addiction, meth addiction. Cures it all. Cures it all. People have studied Iboga extensively, and it is a miraculous thing. And yeah, it's Schedule 1. Meth is Schedule 3? Wow. Crazy, bro. Crazy. Oh, and I remember the number one paragon of anarcho-communism. I was trying to think of anarcho-communist entities, and I only thought about France, but no. Pol Pot's Cambodia. Pol Pot's Cambodia, backed by Henry Kissinger in the United States. Pol Pot's Cambodia. That's real anarchy. There is a time in Pol Pot's Cambodia where life expectancy was 17. Life expectancy. So you know, there, just like Mao was a pedophile, Pol Pot was very likely a pedophile. Yeah, that's sad. The name Conrad was actually introduced to Europe through the ruling dynasty of the colony of Aquileia, the Phoenician colony up in Venice. That's where the name Conrad came from, and it was injected pretty hard into Europe. So, Q and E are both compromised. W has his own agenda at play, so treat him with a grain of salt. I hate to say it, but you guys are not ready for R and his message. On the other hand, M looks promising, but he has limited access to the protocols. Do not trust E or N. Do untrust the plan, but don't retrust the strategy. G. Alright, y'all. Have a good one. Cheers.